Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Urmi, and today I have the pleasure of having a very special guest. We met each other through YouTube, and today she'll be talking about her experience in teaching French and also learning different languages. So to tell you a little bit about who she is, she teaches French on YouTube. She has her own YouTube channel. She has an Instagram account where she basically provides tips and strategies to learn French, and she also learned different languages herself. She has a very diverse background, so we will have the chance to learn a little bit about who she is. So thank you, Cassandra, for being here today. I'm very, very excited of having you here with me. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me, first of all. And yeah, all good. All good. I'm in the south of France right now, so perfect environment.
How is the weather there?
Warm,
Okay, like
but I think
really
it is to be
warm?
expected. Yes.
Okay, okay. Where exactly are you in the south of France?
I don't know if you know, I'm around Béziers.
Mm.
So for those who don't know, basically you take Paris
Yeah.
and then you go like straight south, and when you hit the Mediterranean Sea, that's where I am.
Okay, okay. So you must have like a nice weather, the beach around, right? Uh,
Exactly.
Okay, so I would like to know a little bit about you when we had the chance to talk to each other and all the exchanges that we had. I was very much impressed with your story, and I would be very much interested in learning more about it. And if you can tell the audience about like your ethnical background and how you like moved around and how you came up with like learning languages, that would be really, really nice.
Okay. Um, so, well, I'm French, but from Paris. So grew up around Paris, though I have family a bit everywhere in France. And as I told you, my second language is Spanish because part of my family is from Spain, from Aragon. But because of war, trauma, civil war, Franco, all that, they do speak French. And in France, they refuse to speak Spanish. So I never learned from them. So that's why I had to learn by myself to be closer to them and to, well, that part of my identity. And that was my first step into learning languages because the education in foreign languages in France is quite poor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I had to do it by myself. And then during my studies, I traveled to Australia. So I did an internship with a solicitor in Sydney, and he was bilingual, English and French. So Australian, but just, I don't know, fascinated with the French language. And he really helped me to learn English. So that was really interesting. And then when I came back to Europe, I just quit my studies after the master. It took me 5 years to realize that wasn't for me. And I moved to the Netherlands because it is a country in Europe where everybody speaks English. So it is quite easy to move there and find a job. And that's where I live when I'm not in holidays in France.
Okay, so out of curiosity, what language did you speak at home, for instance?
French.
You only spoke in French.
Only French. We just had a few words of Spanish and Catalan because where my family is from, it's really the border between Aragon and Catalonia.
Okay,
So we had a few words like that. Like, for example, we never said bonne nuit, which is good
okay,
night. We would say bonne nuit.
okay.
Stuff like that. The very simple words that are part of the routine. We had a few in Catalan or in Spanish, but mostly in French. We spoke French.
Okay, and do you go back to your family's home country often or not
Yeah,
at all? You do, eh?
yes.
Okay.
But
And,
but there everybody speak, well, everybody. The older generations, they do speak French because they
okay.
had to immigrate during the Civil War and then they went back, but they kind of taught French to the younger generations. So now it's funny because it's a mix of everything. So at the same table, we can speak French, Castellano, so really Spanish, the official Spanish, let's
Mm-hmm.
say, a bit of
Mm-hmm.
Catalan. I have a few English words that pop from time to time. It's kind of a mix.
Okay. And did you become fluent in Spanish or Catalano, you said? How do you pronounce it?
Castellano,
Castellano?
Castellano.
Yeah.
I used to be, and
Okay.
then I really focused on English.
Okay.
And because I was in Australia, I was really speaking English all the time. I was quite far away from my family, literally the other side of the world.
Right.
So I kind of stopped practicing my Spanish, and I lost it.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a very frustrating process for me. I lost it. I kept the ability to understand very easily. I still understand very easily what is said to me in Spanish, but I had to work even harder to catch up and go back to my older level. So I took a tutor online.
Yeah. Yeah,
Before
that's the
I
thing
practice.
about learning languages is that if you don't practice it, you just lose it so easily. And it's so easy to lose that, I feel.
It is, yeah, way easier to lose it than to learn.
Exactly. It's just like it takes you 2 seconds to
Mm,
literally use it, and it takes you so many years to actually
yeah.
master a language. Yeah,
Mm,
it's crazy. And what do you do now? So I know you teach French on YouTube. Like, what do you do
yeah.
now? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So now so I'm a tutor online. So italki, Preply, platforms like that.
Uh-huh.
Because I was a student first. So that's how I started. I discovered the platforms as a student, then become a tutor there. And yeah, I started a YouTube channel and Instagram account. So for me, it is kind of the same job because I use the research I do for my lessons into my YouTube channel or my Instagram account, and other way around. Sometimes I do a lot of research for, well, my content online, and I will use it with my students later on. Um, yeah, so it is I'm a French tutor online.
And I know when we had the exchanges, that when we exchange emails, I know you talked about like failures and successes of learning languages. Like, would you be able to share like what was your own experience? Like, what was one failure and one success when it came to learning languages?
So yeah, I remember telling you that. My big failure, I would say that was when I tried to learn the Dutch language,
Ah,
because even though everybody speaks English in the Netherlands, maybe not everybody, but you know, a lot of people, I really tried to learn Dutch, and I think I just didn't do it the right way. Um, and also, I kind of forced myself to learn because I thought that I had to, because I was
mm,
in the country. And I realized that I was not that interested in that language. It didn't really click with me. And I think that was my first mistake. I insisted and I forced myself in learning this language, even though I was not feeling it.
mhm,
And so that was my first mistake. And I started to learn with books, with written materials. And something I realized, and now I'm teaching my students, is that when you learn, at least at first, with books, you kind of create the sound of the language in your head, but it's not how it sounds in real life.
mhm.
So I did a lot of work and I thought I was becoming quite good, but then speaking with people, they were just different words for me. And that
Yeah.
was extremely frustrating. Mm,
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you say that because I feel like a lot of the times when we are learning a language, it's because we have an obligation, like we have to do it, maybe because it's a school, we have no choice, we have to go with it. And maybe we just hate it, but we just have to go with this because that's the only option they give you. And I can share the same thing too, because when I was in Italy, we had to learn English, French, and German. And with me, my experience with German was that I completely lost it. I don't
mhm,
speak a word of it. I knew how to speak it, but I remember that I mean, I would study it. I had no issues, but like if you had a choice, I would have never chosen German. And so I can share the same thing, that sometimes I think when it comes to learning a language, you want to choose something that you have an interest, that you're passionate about, that you want to learn about the culture. And I feel like I did not get that connection with the German.
No, I understand. Funny how for both of us, they are languages from the same family.
I know, right? And so I do want to ask you, because what I liked about your YouTube channel is that you talk a lot about pronunciation. And I feel like when it comes to French pronunciation, it's like it belongs to its own thing. It's not like Spanish or Italian where you pretty much read every single letter. And I can say like it's relatively easier when it comes to like pronouncing words in Italian and in Spanish, but with French it's a little bit more, I would say it's a bit trickier. And so I really like the content that you have about that. So can you share like some tips when it comes to like French pronunciation and how people can tackle this obstacle?
I call it first thing before even trying to learn new words in French, just tackle the pronunciation. And actually I started with pronunciation because of my failure with Dutch.
Okay.
That's why I did it, because I didn't want people to, again, create the sound of the language in their head and it's not reality. And I also know that French pronunciation can seem scary because, but it comes from the history of the language itself, because it is a Romance language, but with a more Germanic pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mix, and it's really hard to understand that. Once you get that, and you get you learn the nasal vowels. So that was one of my latest video on my channel. You learn all these combination of letters that may not be intuitive at first. Then it's actually quite logical. But you have to learn that first to make it make sense. So combination of letters first. Once you get them, then really your French learning journey is way easier and less scary.
So I have a question about the pronunciation, because I know even based on what I see on YouTube and based on what I hear is that the pronunciation is probably the hardest part, but is there like any way they can practice the pronunciation? Like I know probably is it speaking, is it probably reading, listening? Like how can people work more towards this? How, like, what's an easy thing that they can do?
To be fair, I created videos with exercises because I thought that we kind of lack resources online, at least for free, because there are apps that are very good. I use Busuu all the time and they make you talk. So that is very good. And of course you can learn pronunciation and practice your pronunciation with a tutor, but not everybody has the budget. So for free resources, I thought that, it was lacking. There are a lot of videos that will explain to you things, but they won't make you practice and make you talk really. So that's why I created a few exercises videos.
Okay. And those are available like for free?
Yeah, on YouTube.
Okay, perfect. So I will put the link to your YouTube channel so people can look it up. And I know your channel, and I'm assuming your channel is mainly targeting like beginners and intermediate levels. Am I right?
Completely.
Okay, and what would you say there are some of like must known rules that every beginner should learn when it's like when they're trying to learn French?
So I'm not repeating it enough, pronunciation. Now another thing I see a lot, so don't be afraid of grammar, but don't focus too much on it either. I would say for a beginner, it is important to understand the fundamental structures of French grammar, like subject, verb, object. Once you master that, then I would say, and I tell all my students, learn vocabulary that makes sense in your real life. Because I see a lot of students, they try to learn list of vocabulary. And I did that myself. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I did that myself. And now I stopped teaching vocabulary to my students. I ask them what is relevant to them, and I ask them to ask me the words, because I very much prefer that. For example, with the verbs être et avoir, to be, to have, I will ask them how they think they are, what they have around them, because that makes sense. That is part of their life. Learning just words, that never works and that never sticks. So that would be a big advice for beginners.
Yeah, I remember I used to do the same too, where I would just learn a bunch of vocabulary, but I don't think it actually sticks in your head, because it's just you're trying to memorize without understanding it. And then afterwards, what they would make us do is that we would read like dialogues or conversations or like books. And even though we would not understand, like let's say 50% of it, we would still do it that way, and we would just highlight the words that we don't understand, and we would try to get the meaning of whatever was happening from the context. And that was like a pretty good way of like learning vocabulary, rather than like learning 100 of them. We would just learn like 10, but it was like still, enough, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And learning list of vocabulary, it is so frustrating because, as we said, it doesn't stick. But then I did feel unmotivated because of that. I saw learners losing their motivation completely because of that, because you feel like, oh, I'm failing, I'm not good enough. Other people, they know all these words, but I don't. And that's not how it works.
Yeah, exactly. So I know you talked about some applications to learn languages, and you mentioned one of them before. And I know that in the website that you have, you list a bunch of applications. Maybe do you want to share some of them that some of the learners might find useful?
For sure. So the one I recommend, I'm going to be completely transparent. There are affiliates links, but I contacted them because I love the app. I don't want to advise anything that I haven't used myself. Busuu, I love it so much because I never get bored with that app. I never get bored, and every day like 10-15 minutes is enough. So when you're in the bathroom and you have your phone, everybody does that, I guess. One lesson is enough every day, and you can do that at that time. But it's extremely interactive. They make you practice so your reading skills, writing, but also listening, speaking, everything. So it is a paid app, but I truly believe that it is worth it. I use it with Japanese, but I've heard it was amazing with French as well. But yeah, for Busuu, love it so much. Lingopie is also great because there are videos, and then you have the subtitles and you can learn the vocabulary. And if you're interested in the story, you will be interested in the words and the context. So that's what we said. Don't learn a bunch of words, just have some interest and put them in context. And that's exactly what that app does. For example, for Spanish, they have Netflix shows. Love that. I love that. And yeah, and Mondly, but I use it less and less because Busuu and Lingopie are really my go-to apps. I tried Duolingo for so long, but I always got bored.
I don't like Duolingo. I'm sorry. I think I tried it once and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I don't like Duolingo. It's so not challenging, honestly. Even people that use Duolingo, I'm like, what exactly are you learning with it? Honestly. What exactly are you learning with it? Like,
I would love to know.
It's like basic, but not even, it's like lower than basic. That's how I feel. Like you cannot learn a language with Duolingo. That's for sure. That's for sure. I know about Lingopie because a lot of the videos that I watch, they always keep mentioning Lingopie, get Lingopie. So I'm like, okay, Lingopie seems to be a good one. Yeah. Okay. So I will put the information about those ones in the description. And we are almost like at the end of the interview, but I do want to ask you a few more things. Like I know you have like your YouTube channel and you have your Instagram page, like do you have anything else where people can like reach out? Or I don't know if you have a website where people can find like free available resources, ebooks. I don't know if you have like courses, or is it maybe in the plan? I don't know.
It is definitely in the plan. So at the moment, people can subscribe to my newsletter, and twice a month I create a new lesson that is completely exclusive, not something I talk about on YouTube or Instagram, fully exclusive for people who subscribe to the newsletter, with a bit of practice exercises, because I'm a firm believer that you need to practice the language. So yeah, the newsletter. I'm working on my website by myself, so I'm learning a lot because I really want to learn how to make a website, and I want to be able to do something by myself. It takes quite some time, and a course will come once I can put my website online.
Yeah,
For sure.
definitely. I think that's it's a good plan. I know that with website it's a lot of work because I also have a website. I have a blog, and it was a lot of trial and error. I think I spent nights fixing it. It was like not making sense. And finally, finally, I got to where I am with this website. But sometimes I need to revamp it. But I think it's fine because now I think I know a little bit how to move things around. So it's not that bad once you learn how to do it. But it's about learning first. Yeah.
Exactly. And that takes time. But then I don't know. I feel so good when I can do something by myself that I learned. Like I acquired the skills.
Yeah, exactly. It's an acquired skill, I would say. Definitely. All right. So before we go, I want to ask you, like, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, all your social media links? Tell us about those.
So people can find me on Instagram and YouTube. Cassie parle français. Yeah, Cassie speaks French. So same handle for both, and there they can find my link in bio, for example, with the links to the newsletters and the app I mentioned and everything.
All
Cassie parle
right.
français.
Perfect. I will put all the information in the description below. And I do want to thank you for being here today and sharing your experience with teaching and learning languages. I was very, very, very much honored when you said yes. I want to thank you once again for being here. And I will put all your links in the description below. And once again, thank you. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye.